This happened back in 2018 when I was in college. I worked part-time at a small gas station just outside my town, and every year my boss asked if I could take the Halloween night shift, since nobody else wanted to deal with the weird, late-night customers that came with it. It was around 11:45 p.m. when a guy walked in wearing a cheap skeleton mask. That wasn't unusual. People wore costumes all night. But what got me was that he didn't say anything. He just kind of stood near the back of the store, staring down one of the aisles. After a few minutes, I asked if he needed help finding something. He didn't answer, just turned his head slowly toward me and walked to the cooler. He opened the fridge door, grabbed a single bottle of water, then came up to the counter. I scanned it, told him the total. He reached into his pocket and handed me a wet $5 bill. Like, actually dripping wet. He didn't move for a few seconds, just stood there breathing through the mask, slow and heavy. Then he whispered, "You should go home." I thought he was just trying to mess with me, so I half laughed and said, "Yeah, trust me, I'd love to." He took the bottle, turned, and walked out the door. I went to lock it after he left, but when I looked outside, he was gone. The parking lot was completely empty. Not even 30 seconds had passed. A few minutes later, a police cruiser pulled into the lot. The officer asked if we'd seen anyone come through recently wearing a skeleton mask. Apparently, there had been an armed robbery at a convenience store 20 minutes away. Same description. The weirdest part? They found the getaway car later that night. It had crashed in a ditch less than a mile from our gas station. The driver, the guy in the skeleton mask, had been dead for over an hour when they found him. Back in my high school days, a few friends and I were invited to a Halloween bonfire out near the edge of town. It was in a wooded area behind a friend's farmhouse. We brought drinks, told scary stories, the usual. It was around 1 a.m., and we were all pretty drunk. We noticed someone walking along the tree line just barely visible in the flicker of the fire. They were wearing all black, so it was hard to make him or she out. We figured it was someone messing around drunk trying to scare the others, so a few of us shouted at the figure, but they didn't react. They just kept walking slowly until they disappeared behind the trees. About 10 minutes later, my buddy's phone started ringing. He answered and his face went pale. He put it on speaker, and all we heard was this faint whispering alongside with a heavy breathing. We were all still drunk and could barely even stand straight when all of this was happening. Then, from the darkness, we heard it again. The same whispering coming from the woods. Everyone went silent. The woods were completely dark beyond the firelight. We decided to pack up and leave, but as we were walking to our cars, we heard footsteps behind us. Whoever this person was, it was running towards us. We turned and saw that same all-black figure standing just at the edge of the fire pit, barely visible now. We didn't stick around. We piled into our cars and drove off fast. We still don't know who or what it was, but none of us ever went back there again. Back in 2017, my friend Ethan and I were both 16, and like most dumb teenagers, we thought Halloween was the perfect night to do something adventurous. There was this abandoned house on the edge of our town. Everyone called it the Willow House. It had been empty for almost 20 years after a fire supposedly killed the man who used to live there. Every year, people dared each other to go in, but hardly anyone actually did. That Halloween night, around 11 p.m., Ethan texted me, "You down to finally go to Willow Lane?" Of course, I said yes. We brought flashlights and snuck out after my parents went to bed. The walk there took about 20 minutes, mostly through a wooded path behind the old elementary school. When we reached the house, the first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. Not a single sound. No crickets, no wind, just dead silence. The place looked worse than I expected. Windows smashed, the porch half collapsed, and the door hanging off its hinges. We stepped inside, our flashlights cutting through the dust and darkness. The floor creaked with every step. On the walls, you could still see the black smoke marks from the fire. For a while, nothing happened. We looked around, took some photos, and started to feel like the rumors were just small-town nonsense. But then Ethan called me over to look at something in the hallway, an old calendar still hanging crooked on the wall. The date frozen on it was October 31st, 1998. That's when we heard it. A low thump from upstairs. We both froze. Ethan whispered, "Probably just an animal." But it sounded heavy, like a footstep. We pointed our flashlights at the staircase. The wood was charred and cracked, but you could see dust shifting on the steps, like someone had just walked across them. Then came another thump, closer. Ethan whispered, "Dude, we should go." I nodded, but before we could move, something creaked at the top of the stairs. A figure was standing there, barely visible, just the outline of a person in burned, dark clothing. The beam of my flashlight shook as I aimed it higher, and when the light hit its face, I realized it was wearing some kind of melted Halloween mask. The rubber fused to what looked like scarred skin underneath. The thing let out this broken, wheezing sound, like someone trying to breathe through smoke. Ethan bolted first, and I didn't even look back. We sprinted through the front door and didn't stop running until we reached the road. We tried to tell ourselves it was just someone messing with us. But the next day, Ethan went back in daylight to prove it. He sent me a picture from his phone. The same staircase, the same hallway. But this time there were fresh, black footprints on the floor, leading down the steps and out the front door. He swore he hadn't gone upstairs. Later that week, we looked up old articles about the Willow House. Turns out, the man who lived there had been a Halloween prop maker. His workshop was in the attic, and he died in the fire after his costume caught flame. No one ever moved back in. The house was torn down 2 years later. But every Halloween night since then, people still say they see faint lights moving in that empty lot, like someone walking with a flashlight through the ashes of what used to be home.